pretty cool, and he's doing this in every meetup. I am really impressed. You how he's progressed, where he's actually it's making sense. So great job, Marcelo. Thank you very much. Nelu, do you want to grab the link real quick? So we want to quickly just show you our website. So how many of you are new for this meetup? Look around, Marcelo. Do you see anybody else that's new today? I know we have some of that.
Yeah. I see somebody by the name of Adolfo, who I don't recognize, and someone by the name of
been around.
Yeah, he is. Where you been? It's been weeks since I see him.
We're missing him, but he's been around. He's been around.
Adolfo's a regular.
Adolfo, good to see you, Coach.
Matthew looks like he's new
Yes,
here to the block.
I've been to a few of these. Unfortunately, for the past, I'd say 2 months or so, I've felt I've kind of fallen off the bandwagon, if you will.
Oh well, welcome back.
Thank you.
We gotta get you back. We gotta get you back. Let's go. You're back in.
And of course, Rick, the one who was passing off as Lisa, Vicky's here.
Nice.
Yeah, actually, I've sat in on one or two as well. Just I make things.
Stealth, have you? Okay, yeah. I see how it is.
Yeah.
All right, great.
And
anyone else?
I'm Catherine. I'm new.
Hey, Catherine.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi.
How did you find our meetup? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I got an email, again, I'm Catherine. Hi, everyone. And I specialize in Agile transformation. And when I saw the email, I definitely wanted to join and get more information about this.
Awesome.
Welcome,
aboard.
Catherine.
Thank you. I'm going to turn off the video because I'm going to eat my dinner at the same time.
Okay, enjoy. Make sure you turn off the sound too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Might be distracting otherwise.
All right, anyone else out there? Okay, I'm looking around again. Some of them, I guess.
I'm not sure I'm familiar with Silvana. Silvana, are you new here, or did I just miss you another time?
Sure, I'll introduce myself. It's my first time at your event.
Yay.
I'm dialing in from Europe, so it's midnight here. So I'm curious, and if my eyes are too heavy, I may just slip out, okay?
I'll do my best.
Right, awesome.
No pressure, Andre. No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure.
Welcome.
So again, thank you very much for joining us. This is a community. Keep in mind that we do this every Wednesday. We've been doing this for how long? Was it been 6 months now? I lost track of how long we've been doing this, but amazing that we've been doing this every week. And actually we do this on Saturday as well. And how much is the cost? I know some of you are here for free, but normally this costs like $10,000. So I think whoever's here for free, we only give you one session for free. And next time you will receive that extensive bill. No, it's actually for what? What, Marcelo, what do you say?
It's free as in beer.
Free as in beer.
Free as in
Still
beer.
Still have problems with that statement, but free as in beer. Okay.
You had to have gone to the U to know what that means.
Oh God, can you? Oh, look at that. We got the U. Okay. All right. So again, we're sharing you with the link. So if you guys can take a look at the link that we shared in the chat. This is our website. Take a look at it because we do have the ability for you to register there. And the registration is free as well. And all we do is we send you out emails and show you, hey, these are some of the events that are happening. Yes, we do certifications, as Marcelo mentioned today. Yes, we got the Kanban, the SAFe certification. We even have the CAL, Certified Agile Leader certification. So we pretty much have everything when it comes to Agile certification. Please join us. We've gotten some great remarks. We also might even have some discount codes for you if you're interested. And the certifications, we've actually been doing it on the weekends so that we make sure that you guys have availability. I'm losing my voice here. Okay, so I lost a little bit of my voice, but that's what happens when I've been talking all day. So the idea behind this, again, please join us, please register. I want to introduce to you our presenter for today. His name is Andres Porque. I actually have the pleasure of working with him, and I've known him for a long time. He was actually at the first, what was it, the High Performing Team Conference. So this was the first event that we ran a long time ago. I think Marcelo was there. He was there, and additional people were there as well. But it's amazing. He was actually part of maybe growing this community, growing the South Florida community. I'm so eager to have him here speak to us. I'm actually working with him on a day-to-day basis. So we are working at a local company here. You might see the people represented around. I don't want to even mention the name right now. Maybe if he likes to, he would. But I'm so excited to join him in the process of helping this organization through their transformation. So Andres, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rick. Welcome, everybody. Nice to have you. I'll do my best to keep you awake. Let me share my screen. I am kind of new to Zoom. I'm a Teams guy. Let me see, did I share the right thing or no?
Yes, you did. We can see
No,
your
you're
screen.
sharing your notes. You're sharing your notes.
Then stop share.
Yeah.
Then, okay, here we go. All right, you see that?
Yes, I see. We see you now. We
See you.
Oh boy, Rick.
You're close, man. You're close. Hey.
Hold on.
Nice breeze at the beach there.
Yeah. So, okay, I think this is it. I think that's it right there. No?
There you go. Yes.
Got it?
That's perfect. Yeah.
Awesome. He's
I don't-
mastered PowerPoint.
I
Give him
don't
the job.
I don't see the ring around the screen, but I'm trusting you guys see my screen.
Yeah, we're seeing you.
Yes, we can see
Okay.
you.
All right, great. Awesome. Welcome, everybody. So today, we're going to talk about justifying investments in Agile that resonate with executives. I got a little bit of experience in this. I've been doing this for a little while now. I mean, this is my second big transformation. And so I've learned a lot doing this. I'm kind of sharing with you what I've learned. This is not something that you Google. I mean, this is not, I'm sure if you Google, you may find things similar to this and maybe others. I'm just kind of sharing with you what has worked, for me. And I'll be interested to find out maybe from others if they're work with executives and they're in Agile transformation, maybe what's been working for you. So with that, let me go ahead and move on to the next slide. All right, see that? That's me. So a little bit about me. I've known Rick for a long time, and I think that when we first met, Rick, that was probably about maybe 9 years ago, something like that. It was a long time, and so I've been working in transformations for about that long, and so but my journey in Agile actually started several years before. And so I'm very passionate about this. I believe in it very strong. And I think it's important that when you believe something strong and you believe it's going to change the world you're in, right? Which is the company and that ecosystem, then you've got to do things to try to keep that dream alive, right? And so I'm going to be sharing with you things that has helped me to kind of keep the dream alive in an Agile transformation. And that when I say keep the dream alive, I'm talking about, keeping the money wheel going, because these things are not cheap. They are expensive. Agile transformations cost millions of dollars. And so when you consider that they cost millions of dollars, you think about who is it that really funds this? Well, it's these guys, the executives. So to understand what resonates with them, you got to understand a little bit about them. All right. So I like to start off with a question, a poll question. So Nayla, if you could kind of project that question, I would greatly appreciate it.
Okay, I'm projecting right now. Please let me know when you see my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Stop sharing.
Okay.
So you got to take over sharing from Andres.
Okay.
I can stop share.
There we go.
There you go. Let's come.
It's loading. There we go.
You got the link there?
Mhm.
All right.
So what percentages, what are the percentage of Agile transformations that fail to meet their objectives? That's the first question. Go ahead and take a stab at that. Okay, looks like people stopped responding. Yeah, so the research I did shows that about 75% of actual transformations actually fail to meet their objectives. That's quite a big number. So why do you think that, what do you think is the number one reason why Agile transformations fail? There's no question for that other than me asking and you guys answering.
I guess you can unmute yourself if you'd like to answer that, or you could put in the chat, however you feel more comfortable.
Different expectations.
Different expectations. Okay, anybody else? If there's a chat line, someone could help me monitor that.
It depends on a cultural transformation most people are not willing or ready to make.
Yep. Okay, good.
And a mindset transformation or change that people aren't ready or willing to make.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. One of the reasons is some companies approach it as a process-only thing and then quickly realize when they really got to change the ecosystem, they are at odds with that culture and with that mindset. And so that's one of the reasons why, but that's not the number one reason, but it's a really good, that's like the number 3 reason is a lot of companies approach as process only and totally bypass one of the biggest, most important things, which is mindset and culture.
So I had mindset and culture, but then also they think they can do it on their own and they don't invest in it. They don't invest the time, they don't invest the funds. They think that they could do it organically on their own and then everybody starts doing something completely different internally. That's one. Lack of investment and focus.
Cool. And I think maybe not, middle management not knowing their place in Agile. It's like causes
lack of leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership does play a role as well and resistance to change. But actually the number one reason why Agile transformations tend to fail is because they take too long. That's the number one reason why they fail. And so a lot of times it's not really setting up the expectations around an Agile transformation. Is there a destination in an Agile transformation?
For the first time in any event that you've ever spoken at, I'm unmuting myself, Andres, and the answer is no.
No, that is the correct answer. Why? Why is that the right answer?
The journey, not a destination.
Because think about it for a second. we signed up for a continuous improvement. We signed up for continuous improvement. We signed off to continually change. Is there a final destination for continually to change? No.
No.
Right. So the number one reason is because they take too long. And so that's a very interesting reason why, but a lot of it too is not setting up the right expectation, the vision around it. And I'm going to get into all those kind of details now. So let me go back to sharing my screen. Now that I'm a pro at Zoom, you guys see it?
Yeah.
All right. So these guys, the executives, these are the guys you got to convince the most, right? They're the ones that hold the purse. But the one thing that you probably need to realize is how are they wired? You know, they're wired, they're kind of very similar in many ways in how they're wired. And so I wanted to kind of bring this up and kind of share with you something. How many of you have heard of Myers-Briggs personality test? Yep. I like this particular test, there's others, because this really kind of shows who you are really. Not who you are exactly, but who you are really, you know, how you think, right? So there's different quadrants to this. Like it looks at your energy style, your thinking style, your value style, and your lifestyle. So basically when you take one of these tests, there is a profile that's generated. You either fall into the category of being an extrovert or an introvert, right? And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Sensing or intuition, right? Sensing, as it says there, this category is about how people collect information. Do they prefer their own senses and what they experience, or do they prefer patterns and abstractions, right? So that's the difference between sensing and intuition. And then thinking and feeling, right? This scale is about how people make decisions. Some people, right, are high on the thinking scale as it looks, you know, they look at data, facts, you know, they're into, you know, metrics, information. While others, you know, they're more comfortable with the touchy-feely type of thing, right? They make their decisions based on emotions. So that's the other dimension. And then judging and perceiving. So judging is more if you prefer like a structure, an organization, if you're more like into, you know, having structures, organization versus someone who may be a little more adaptive and is okay with a little bit of ambiguity. They're okay with a little bit less structure. So when you consider this test, you know, a lot of people have taken it actually. And here's some interesting things. They did a study, 26,477 leaders. And here's what they discovered. Most fall within these 4 personality types, okay? And if you look at my my screen, you'll see that there are actually a total of 16 different personality types. And the 4 that they're mentioning there are the ones I've got highlighted, right? There's what they call the mastermind, the field marshal. I've heard the field marshal also be referred to as the executive, the supervisor, the inspector, right? So more of the administrator quadrant and the coordinating quadrant. So what is that you notice when you look at these personalities? What is it that they have in common, these 4 top leaders? Let me show you that again. Look at those 4 different personality types out of the 16. What do you see that they have in common? If anyone's putting something in the chat, Nailu, can you kind of share with me what they're saying?
TJ.
Yes, sir.
TJ.
That's right. Yeah, they all have thinking and judging personality traits. That's very important to understand. I can't tell you how important that is. Here's the thing you should know, someone that's high on the thinking scale, they look at data. They look at facts, right? They look for information. They thrive on this. Executives Most executives are like this. And if they're high on the judging scale, they prefer structure, they prefer organization, right? You need to come across that way as a transformation leader. So that's something interesting that you probably, I don't know if you were aware of that, but that's something that you should be aware around executives. And if you want to resonate with them, you kind of have to know a little bit about how they're wired. Any questions so far?
Just a comment, it reminds me of Shark Tank, right? If you think about those guys on Shark Tank, the guys and gals on Shark Tank, right? They're like, okay, what's your revenue? What's your sales? You know, what's my return on investment? They're that kind of, that's where they live, right? They want all the time, right?
Yeah, that's a good comparison. Anybody else have any other comments or questions? Okay, so let me get into this next slide. What I call the 5 not so easy steps. Okay, these are not easy steps. It may seem easy because there's 5 steps, but I call it the 5 not so easy steps to justifying an agile transformation. So there's 5 things that I've learned, and there could be more, right? Again, this is kind of my experience. I mean, this is not Google. This is my experience that I think are important to keep in mind when you're thinking about justifying an agile transformation and keeping it around for a while. Okay. The first thing is you got to have a burning platform. The second is something I'll call from pilots to vision, right? I'm going to get into that. I'm going to explain each one slide by slide. The next thing is a roadmap that connects, right? The fourth thing is what I call stats and stories, right? And this has a lot to do with metrics, but also, you know, you need to have stories as well. I'm going to talk about that. And then the fifth thing is engaging the leaders. Okay, so let's go to burning platform. You got, I said, one of the I think fundamental things that every agile transformation, every company that's in agile transformation needs to be able to answer and answer quickly is, why are they doing this? Why agile? If you can't answer that question, then how can you have a vision? Where do you know where you're going? Right? So you got to be able to answer that question. You got to be able to create the burning platform. You got to be able to ask, why agile for us? What problems are we trying to solve? Why is it that we're going to go in this direction? Why is that so important? Because there's going to be a lot of money invested. And so you got to be able to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve and where it is that you want to go. And the other thing too, a part of this whole burning platform, my experience is you also got to have a business case. And the business case that I'm talking about here is more of a business case to start, okay? Because you have a burning platform and, you know, but you still got to prove it out, right? You got to kind of start off with, hey, let's get permission to kind of start this, right? Let's get permission to start. Now, in the previous company I worked in, and I've talked to other folks too that have done agile transformations, and typically it's someone, there's usually a senior person or an executive that actually kind of wants this kind of stuff. They want to bring in a transformation. So I think it's very important that that you pair up with that person, right? If they select you, right, to run to facilitate and run an agile transformation, that you really pair up and get close to this person. Now, the person that this executive that I'm kind of referring to, I think it's important that you try to have the right executive, right? I think that's very important. Having an influential executive, I think, goes a long way. Someone that's respected, right? Someone that other folks kind of look up to within their peers, their colleagues. And so it's a very important that I think that they be the ones that actually pitch the idea of, you could be in the room, right? If you are the person that's the lead for the transformation, but I think it's important that they pitch it, right? You can be in the room or not in the room, but that they pitch it. and they be the ones that try to help get the buy-in, right, for the transformation, not necessarily start at this point, but to pilot it, right, to prove it out, okay? Does that make sense so far? So at this point, you're just trying to get kind of permission to start and build a case for this and get some foundational reasons why we want to move in this direction. And so what I'm sharing with you there is it's a snapshot from the 14th annual State of Agile report, and this is a survey that they do every year. This is the 14th year, and if you look, there's several reasons why many companies get into it, right? Typically, accelerate software delivery, being able to be agile, which means managing changing priorities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let me ask you a question. For how many in this group are actually are in an agile transformation? Your company that you work for is in, okay, great. I see Marcelo, but I can't see all the hands. Anybody else? Joe?
This is Catherine. I'm there too.
Yes.
Okay, Catherine. Can you share with, do you guys feel comfortable sharing kind of the reasons why your company is in an agile transformation? Do you know the answer to that question?
Seymour said yes.
Okay, well, I'm wondering what the reasons are.
Yeah, so with my clients, they have McKinsey there to implement the agile transformation, and is basically an executive that got the buy-in with the rest of the other folks to implement agile. They're all over the place. Some are agile, some are not. They're still on waterfall, so we have to get them to agilist space. And also to get some of the buy-ins as well, because some folks are against agile.
Okay. Anybody else want to share kind of the reasons why your company's? I'm just curious, how it lines up or how it aligns to the survey.
Yeah, Andres.
I would say at the previous company, we had a group that was kind of piloting the agile effort, and it was a security group, and it was kind of new to the organization, and I think people started to take notice that it really was more productive to use that technique, and they started to become curious and want to know more about it. Want to see if they can adopt it too to become more productive in their groups.
Okay, cool. So productivity. Cool. All right, awesome.
Andres.
Awesome. Yes.
This is MC. The reason that the company that I had worked for made this shift, as I see it, being on the inside and a low-level person, but I think it's the second item, enhancing the ability to manage changing priorities. We undertook that work kind of on as a part of an effort to replace our central reservation system. It's a hotel company, and so because of the work that we did to swap out the CRS, there was a backlog of pending business changes that we could not push through. And so once we opened the floodgates, there had to be a way to be able to manage through that, because something that was important 2 years ago may not have been important now, kind of thing. So the changing priorities.
Okay, cool. So the challenge I have for some of you out there, I'm using the words that Rick does. He uses the word challenge. I got that from him. I work with him every single day. We kind of rub off on each other. Is if you are like, let's say, a Scrum master within an Agile transformation, you play a role in the Agile transformation, the question and the challenge I have for you is, what are you doing to help move the needle, right, on the reasons why the company is moving in that direction? I will tell you, I mean, you all know, based on the advertisement, I am the enterprise coach for TracFone Wireless, and I am proud to say that TracFone Wireless is in an agile transformation mainly to improve the culture. And that is an amazing reason why, right? Because it's not only because of process, our environment, and we want to make sure that we create a great work environment for every person that works there. And I'm not just saying employees, I'm saying, you know, contractors as well, okay? We want to create a great environment for them. So as a Scrum Master or a team member or a product owner, for whatever role you play, what are you doing, right, to be able to move the needle and these drivers for change, right? So I challenge you to consider that, because it's part of the dream, right, that you're building, right? These are the reasons why. So consider that, know it, know why you're trying to do that, and then work towards making it a better place and fulfilling that vision. I hope that was helpful. That's the preachy side of me. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit preachy sometimes. Okay, so we got a platform, right? And let me take you to this slide. Now the kind of the setting is, now we're starting off, right? And we're going to pilot some teams. And when we pilot some teams, you want to have kind of a set of metrics, if you will, right? I know metrics is kind of the Agile community is very divided on this word metrics, right? Some people in the Agile community don't like it, right? They think that that's it can be gamified, or it can be gamed, it can be used as a weapon, but the reality is that you gotta how are you going to show progress? How are you going to prove this out to the executives? If you want to get more money and sponsorship for an Agile transformation, how are you going to do that? How are you going to prove that out, right? So you got to consider having a set of metrics that's going to prove a hypothesis, right? This is a hypothesis that it's like an experiment, right? You're running an experiment. We're going to say, hey, we're going to try this Agile. Agile is good for us. It's going to, right, help us be able to manage changing priorities. Agile is good for us. It's going to help us deliver the market quicker. Agile is good for us because it's going to improve the morale of our workforce. Whatever the case may be, you should have some metrics around that to start and prove it out. And when you prove it out, and you can prove it out successfully, then we can start talking about what's the vision behind this and what you're going to need, what capabilities you're going to need to be able to fund that vision. Okay, so I created some things in there. I put some capabilities to consider. I'm willing to also have another discussion, maybe some of the things that I did put in there that you think are important that we should consider as capabilities for an Agile transformation. So some of the things I have there is the workspaces, right? So you want to architecturally transform your workplace, right? And I'm kind of talking pro-COVID here, but you know, the old cubicle versus open workspace environment that gives it more of a mission critical, collaborative look and feel to it. You got to invest in Agile coaches, right? I think that's super important, right? So, you know, I mean, you know, Rick, Regina, great coaches, right? So if your company's looking for Agile coaches, you know, their company, is definitely a supplier of Agile coaches. There you go, Rick. There's your plug, buddy. But yeah, and not just Agile coaches. It's having the right combination of coaches, right? Like a complementary skills. You know, someone that that's more like, let's say, you could have a person that's very creative, that's very strong in culture. Someone that's let's say that's more kind of metrics driven, right? That's more of an implementer. You got all these different types of skills that you need to consider when you're putting together your coaching team, you know, assuming that you are kind of the Agile transformation leader that's going to help, you know, kind of help put this together. Tools, right? That's another thing to consider. There's a cost associated with that. Got to also think about, you know, how we're going to organize how we're going to formulate the Agile organization, right? The teams, an outlook on how we're going to best center around value, right? And the teams that are going to be actually helping to deliver that value. You've also got to consider the investments in really developing the Agile mindset, training programs, right? Lots of, retrospective workshops with folks and leaders. That's an investment of time and people that you'll need to be able to do these kind of events. Process, that's another thing. You've got to consider also kind of the amount of work associated with that, right? Because to really be agile, you got to lean out your processes. You got to lean out your process. So things like your intake process, right? You got to make sure that it's a leaner, more agile process, contracting process, your onboarding process, your hiring process. There's a whole bunch of different processes that you got to look at to create that ecosystem. Why? Because we're creating an ecosystem, folks, an ecosystem. So process is a part of the ecosystems. And then the last thing I got there is your measurements, your metrics, which are going to serve, which from that you're going to radiate your progress to the executives and not just to the executives, but everyone else, right? How are we doing in this Agile transformation? Just curious. So basically here the idea is you start from pilot, you create a roadmap, and there's an example of one, right? I've also seen murals, which is pretty cool. I think I'm gonna ask Marcelo to help me do one of these. I think he looks very artistic. So I think Marcelo could probably help me with something like that, right, Marcelo? So these are different ways that you can create a vision, but I think it's important. The point here is that you have to eventually create a vision. So you got to go from pilot to vision, because you got to be able to communicate the essence of what your company is trying to become, right, in this Agile transformation. And then that inspires people. That will inspire people, and that will also create more engagement from folks when they understand where is it that we're going to, right? Any questions on this?
Yeah, question. Why for this company was Scrum at, what is it, scaled Scrum? I think that's the right name for that. Why did this fit better for this company than some of the other scaling methodologies?
Where do you see that? I'm sorry.
At the bottom left-hand side, see those pods of 5?
Oh,
that's scaling Scrum from.
Oh don't. That's just that's just an image to portray that you got to consider how how the teams are going to be organized around value. It doesn't mean that I'm not proposing here that it's Scrum of Scrums or if it's value stream safe or none of that. It's just an image to basically communicate that that's one thing you got to consider is the Agile organization. How are you going to organize?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So Andres, a question. What kind of metrics are you using?
I'm going to get to that now.
Okay.
I'm going to get now. What I'm going to show you is some metrics I use. It's not all the metrics I've used. I've used several. Some have not worked so well, and others have worked really well. So we can have a discussion on that as well. All right. So next,
real quick. Sorry.
Hey, Adolfo.
Hey, how's it going? Just a quick question in terms of the vision, right? Setting up the vision. I imagine there's a lot of selling going on to try to get everybody bought into the vision. Is it really coming from the coaching staff, or is it really coming from like the executives of what they see themselves to be? Just wondering if there's a marriage between a transformation expert versus what the executives are sort of aiming to become as an organization. So just wondering if there's a different element of what, if it's a sales pitch that you're coming from, from a vision standpoint, Or is this something that is work together, come up with a vision, and that's really what the target is going to be as, you know, as in collaboration between executives and transformation coaches?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, the vision is not a one-man show. The vision is something that's developed with the leadership, right? And also, I think it's important to understand if you're addressing pain points, right, in the organization, where are they getting those pain points from? Where are they going to gather that information, right? Is that something that perhaps they have gathered from the people, right? So hopefully the folks, right, the workforce has contributed to this as well, right? So it's that feedback as well, right? If there are pain points. So yes, it's not just a one-man show. It's a collection of executive, the transformation leader, coaches, the people. It's done with many folks, but that's a very good question.
And Andres, if we can add a little bit, so you really cannot promote anything without addressing the pain points first. So when we came in, we did an assessment of their pain points at all the different levels of the organization. Because you really, if I always say, you know, if everything is working well, then why change? Then there's no reason to change. If you're doing stuff and it's working well and you got no pain points, then you need to continue doing what you're doing. It's only if there's pain points that you've got that burning platform, and then you sort of build it from there. That's where the conversation starts.
Yep. And I have seen with my own eyes companies that have not admitted that they have pain points because of fear of looking a certain way in front of their customers, the ones that they serve, right? And so that's a very interesting thing. So there needs to be, that's why there needs to be, you know, kind of a come to Jesus type of thing, right? Like where are we really? Or where are we really? And can we be humble enough to admit that we have pain points that we need to address? If they can't get to that, the transformation is going to be a little difficult.
And that was kind of I was going to lead to another question, and maybe you're going to cover this, but obviously you get a vision, you know, and there are the, you know, why people want to go into Agile, why the executives and companies want to go into Agile. Now, from a vision standpoint, like what are the true metrics that you're trying to use to sort of meet that vision itself? Like, I know there might be some improvements in terms of efficiencies and you know, maybe company-wide sentiment, but I guess it's when you're sort of understanding all these pain points, how do you tie the pain points to the metrics to see how it correlates with the vision? Maybe that's a very loaded question, but it's just interesting to see how it all sort of surfaces from the beginning, I feel.
That's a good question. So a metric that, you know, one metric we've been using in the transformation that we have right now is we use NPS scores to understand, you know, workforce sentiment. Is the workforce happy, right? Do they feel like this is a good place to work? Would they actually recommend the company that they work for to a close friend, right? So those are but it's by no means, I don't think it's, I think there could be some flaws to that as well, right? But yeah, very, very good question. But right now, one of the things we're using is NPS to understand, is the workforce, you know, happy with, you know, where they work, and would they actually recommend it or not, given everything that's going on, right? Any other questions? All right, cool. Let's move on. So now we have a vision. I think the next thing you got to have is, you know, what's the roadmap to help us going to get there? Now, remember, these people, the executives, they like structure, right? Remember I talked about that. They like structure. You know, oh, Andre, that kind of looks like a little bit like a project plan, kind of, but there is a big difference between what I'm showing you there and a project plan, right? If you notice, there is a cone of uncertainty. So we're kind of training them to from the very beginning is, okay, you want a year plan, I'll give you a year plan, but we're going to commit to what's immediate, and we're going to give you a gauge on our level of confidence moving forward, right, as the months progress. But nevertheless, getting them to kind of understand where we're heading towards for the year, but also opening it up for potential pivots, and also checking in with them on a regular basis, right, to see if we need to pivot, because they may want to pivot on certain things. So I think it's very important that when you have these roadmaps, that you engage your executives and your senior leaders in understanding it and being a part of it and help to shape it. And they get to see, and they can also be agile with you as well, right? They have, you know, it's not like a fixed plan like you do in waterfall, you know, this, and you're not going to have to create a change request. So we want them to participate as well in road mapping the changes that we want to do in the Agile transformation. In every one of these, you definitely want them engaged in every one of these things that I'm showing you. The next is metrics. All right, let's talk about metrics. There are many different types of metrics, okay? And I'm kind of showing you some metrics I use around, you know, learning and the number of Agile teams and maturity, things like that. They like this kind of stuff. They like it because they see that the progress that's being made, and I've also used it to get them to actually help me and help us in the Agile transformation. Real life story, and we were tracking lower on, like, let's say in Agile coverage, we were a little bit below target, and I had the privilege to actually, you know, present in one of the executive leadership meetings, and I asked for their help, and I said, you know, it'd be very helpful if you can contribute to actually, you know, moving the needle on this by perhaps encouraging your folks to attend these type of learning programs. And they did. And then when they did, we saw the numbers really, you know, move in the right way. And then, you know, one of the things I did is kind of shared with them that, you know, how they actually helped move the numbers, how they actually influenced this, and how they helped, you know, the Agile transformation. So a lot of these things are tools as well, where you can ask for help and they can help you, right? So because you're in it together, you know, you establish a set of metrics, you agreed upon it, and they are also a part of it as well. So use metrics to actually as a tool to help the Agile transformation, not only to radiate progress. And so what you're looking in there is basically 3 quadrants. One is a learning quadrant, one is a doing quadrant, which is we start an Agile team. Now they have the opportunity to do, right? That's the idea. They have the opportunity to do. Learning is just learning, it's just knowledge. Doing is now I can put into practice what I've learned. And then I've got health checks as becoming, because during the health checks, that drives the intentional coaching plans to help teams mature in their journey over, you know, across a set of different areas of dimensions of competency as well. So this is something I use pretty much, you know, all the time. This is like a monthly thing that I radiate. So that's one set of things that I use. The other thing in conjunction, other set of metrics in conjunction with this, is kind of more of a detail on the health assessment. Now, one thing that I was able to negotiate with the executives is, I said, in the spirit of being safe, right, and creating a safe environment for our teams, that I was never going to disclose a maturity score for each team. So what I show basically is just a roll-up for the entire Agile organization, all the teams. So I never reveal like a maturity score of a team, but I do roll it up, and they appreciate it, they understand it, they get it, right? And so this is a roll-up of all our Agile teams, and this is, you know, this is an example from the past. This is by no means, you know, where our teams are today. We're much better than than what you're looking at now. But you could see, you know, things like their overall maturity score, the average team size, you know, their mix, right, of offshore, onshore changes within a team, number of items that they typically handle within a sprint, their mean times between releases. That's a very good metric, by the way. A very good metric of agility is mean time between releases, and quality, right, their overall defect rate, and the frameworks that they use. So that's one set of it. And then I've got also other things like, you know, percent of workforce engagement, MPS, which is really done through surveys, release quality, which is, you know, measured by another team, the problem management teams usually measure that kind of stuff. And so if there's a release issue, if there is a defect or some customer impacting incident from a release, they actually able to detect that, and I'm able to understand, you know, improvements over time. And velocities, you know, you can also measure velocity, cost per project over time, training, you know, training saved by having coaches, right? Coaches that that are in your organization, they actually train at a discount, right? Because they can do it much cheaper being there than, for example, them going outside and getting training. So I actually even show things like that as well. Yeah, so these are some things that I actually show. Any questions on this? Is there any metrics that maybe you guys use that are different that you feel works and does well in resonating with executives? And by the way, Rick, how much time do I got left?
I think you have like 2 hours. 2 hours left.
No. There are some questions in the chat that I'd like to hear the answers to as well. Can you see the
go
chat?
for it. Yeah, so I mean, I'll give you maybe 10 minutes, I think, if we want to finish up a little early. If not, 15. 10 to 15.
There were some questions I heard that people want answered.
Yeah.
Are you ready for that?
Yeah, go ahead. And so okay, so let me finish and then we'll get to the questions. Is that okay?
No problem.
All right, perfect. All right, so it's not just about stats. You gotta also show stories. And so that's super, super important. And I want you to know that it's not just stats, right? It's gotta be a balance of just testimonials of the great things that are happening, people, you know, sharing their sentiment, even in the social media. These are social media accounts. I share this with our executives. Look what our people are saying. Look what others are saying, right? I think that's also very important, right? And also it helps with even attracting a better talent to your organization, because they see, you know, they see from the outside, hey, here we have a company that's changing, and people are speaking highly of it. So that's why I said stats and stories. Stats alone, great, they like that. Can be a little dry, so balance that out with some stories, something that's a little bit more exciting, right? Something you can share, a testimonial. So that's another tip that I have. So balance stats with stories. And then lastly is engage the leaders, right? So I mentioned to you earlier that a lot of Agile transformations, and this is actually the number two reason why Agile transformations fail, is they approach it as a process only transformation, and they tend to neglect the whole mindset and culture aspect of it, and engaging middle management and upper leaders. So one of the things that we do, like in TrackPhone, is basically, this is kind of our roadmap. This is our roadmap for the transformation. We basically have what we call two pillars. We got a teams pillar and we got a leadership pillar. So the way we kind of done it is we say, hey, culture is at the base of everything. It's at the foundation, right? So we've got one track that's pretty much focused on, you know, launching new teams, coaching them, helping them, maturing Scrum Masters, also scaling, right? Launching, you know, big room planning, implementing portfolio practices, those kind of things. So there, that right track is about creating the Agile organization. The track on the left, which is super, super important, is creating the environment so that can thrive, right? So back to culture, you got to create the environment. You gotta, work with leaders, train leaders, have retros with them, understand their pain points. They allow them to feel kind of threatened by this. It's different, right? It's, and we're saying, hell, self-organized teams. They're able to make decisions on their own. Well, what about me? What happens to me? Where do I fit in? So you got to be able to answer those questions. Teams are speaking one way. They have a different vocabulary. They need to understand that vocabulary. How are they going to interact? How are they going to communicate? So you got to have a leadership track as well. You get this going and it goes well, you're going to see a better transformation. So this is super, super important. This number 5 that I've got, and it is not easy. This takes a lot of work. It is painful. It is hard. It takes time, and executives have to, be open to this, right? Because allow this to happen. And so you got to work closely with executives. You got to identify executives. Maybe executives, part of your job is to try to figure out what executives could we help become champions in the Agile transformation. Then look for them, try to find them, find something that you can work with, right? Someone who's flexible, open-minded, right? That may not be totally bought in, but yeah, they like what you're doing and they work with it, create a relationship with them, right? So executives, you cannot underestimate the power that they have. They can derail, right, and kill the transformation. So having these things in place and radiating the progress, getting them engaged and getting them to kind of help you, when the things that you need, because that's another thing I noticed, is they like when you ask for help. They want to make decisions. They want to be involved. And so if you got asked for them and you can actually get them engaged, now you have a partner in your Agile transformation. Now they become engaged. Now you have a shared vision with them. And that's pretty exciting when you get to that point. I think this is pretty much all I have to say around the presentation. I did have some questions that I wanted to radiate out there and ask. They're kind of challenging questions, but I'd like to go ahead and get to the questions that are in the chat. I think some folks wanted some questions answered, but let's go ahead and go there. At this point, I'm pretty much done, and I'm open for questions.
All right. Marcelo, you want to go ahead and start looking at the questions? Or again, the mic can be open right now, guys, and you're free to speak.
Ray was asking, well, how do you measure a high-performing team on this? What's your opinion on that?
Oh, that's a really good question. So the question I have is, what does a high-performing team look like? What does a high-performing team look like? And so if you were to formulate a health check, right? If you were to formulate a health check, what you would be based on what that looks like, right? So high-performing team would be a team that I see, for example, that they're working at a sustainable pace. There's great team dynamics, right? Their velocity is not only going up, but it's also predictable, right? There's many things that you would see in a high-performing team, and then when it comes to measuring it, it's around having a health check that captures the essence, right, around those attributes that you would look for in a high-performing team. So it's taking that and figuring out a way to measure it.
An NBA championship basketball team is a high-performing team.
The Miami Heat.
No, well, yeah, they're close.
Any other questions?
Andres, this is MC. A quick question. You've got here on the leadership side, execute CIF practices. CIF, I'm not familiar with that acronym.
That's an invention of Rick. It's called the Continuous Improvement Framework.
Thanks. There we go.
Maybe you can get Rick to talk about it more, MC.
What you're looking at right there is the CIF, by the way.
Okay.
That is the Continuous Improvement Framework. and there's a lot that goes into it. But basically, if I could talk about it briefly, it's getting leadership and their teams to begin a journey of continuous and relentless improvement, and then eventually them doing it on their own on a cadence, right? Did I explain that right, Rick? It's basic, right? So, and there's a set of different activities, and it's not cookie cutter, you know, the big toolkit that goes with it. So you got to kind of know, you know, where are the gaps and what tools do I need and exercise that I need to help address the particular pain points in that particular organization. For example, things like, you know, we'll launch a town hall, right, for them. That way they can start communicating with each other. We'll do a start, stop, and continue retro to understand their pain points. We'll create a Kanban board, and they'll begin to use Agile tools. That's another thing too, is through that framework, right, they're learning Agile techniques. They're learning Agile techniques through this framework. Same techniques that the Agile teams are actually using themselves, right? They're using retros, they're using a board, and that's one way that it helps with actually creating better interactions with teams, because now they kind of understand a little bit more, right, what the teams are experiencing. So, you know, very good question, but that's kind of in essence explains that framework.
And I would add to that, as if you think about some of these traditional companies, that fixed mindset, how do you open up that fixed mindset? If you have them start thinking about continuous improvement and making small tweaks that, again, they've never made in their life, or they've never been vulnerable to share open conversations, those things are very powerful. The next step of that is actually get a cadence of that. Doing it once is whatever. You did it once and you got something out of it. Once you establish a cadence, now it's like clockwork. We are expecting you to do this. We're expecting you to grab that information. I hate when we have discussions about, hey, let's talk about projects for next year. Let's talk about pain points. You should have already had that with your leader. If you're a real leader, you should have been talking to your teams. You should have that ongoing. You should have a continuous improvement backlog. What we always like to say is that with continuous improvement, all these things come to play. You want to have a better communication. Guess what? Oh, stand-ups. That's a great method. Let's try that. Oh, we want to have demoing how we're doing. Oh, wait a minute, sprint review. So these things kind of lead up to that. Of course, it's going to be their flavor of it, but it builds a lot of openness, transparency. And we as coaches, when Andres said the first step of this is that whole safe environment. I go in there and assess them in the beginning and they say, oh my God, I don't want to talk about anything. They're afraid, they're fearful. So how do we at least open that up a little bit? It's not going to be right away. They're going to be a 5 or a 10. But how do we slowly start opening that to at least start the conversation? And so those are some works that's going behind the scenes that maybe people aren't aware of. But now when Andres goes in and starts doing his teams, or the whole other group starts building out their team, guess what? The leadership is already kind of like prepped. Hey, get ready for this. This is happening. You need to embrace this new way of looking, this new way of working. It's not a perfect. There's always setbacks. There's always work. But I think there's a saying that says, if one small, we got to get a better one than this one, but if one small pebble comes from the executives all the way down, it's a humongous bomb when it gets at the bottom. You could have had a little small thing like, I need a report to do this. Seems like a little thing. Then it goes all the way down. It's this massive report that all the Scrum teams have to waste thousands of hours trying to figure that out. So having that engagement with those executives, it's very, very important. Sorry, Andres, took a little time.
No, going back to the question about how do you measure high performance. I don't know if you guys remember the slide that I shared. Let me go back to it real quick. For the person, I hope the person that asked that question is still on. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Rick, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
See
the radar.
Right. So you see this spider chart ceremonies, cadence, roles, mindset, metrics, user story mapping, architecture development, quality assurance, DevOps. This is what we use to measure high performing team across these 10 dimensions. We've made some revisions to it. There's an older version. We're making actual revisions now and collapsing some of these to make it a little bit more efficient. But to answer your questions, it's more of, you know, understanding the low range and the high ranges in terms of maturity for each one of these. Now, it was something that we created, but these maturity assessments, you can actually buy them. They're available online. They're kind of expensive, but you can do that, or create your own, or download something, or ask a friend that's in a transformation, and maybe they can share something with you. But we look across, you know, these 10 different dimensions. I hope that answers the question.
Any other questions?
So it sounds like with this stat, you use a already built tool to gather those dimensions. How about the other slide that you show with the different quadrants of metrics? Was that also from a built tool, or did you just generate that originally from Excel? How do you go about creating those quadrants?
Yeah, this metrics that I'm displaying right now.
Mm-hmm, yes.
Yeah, so this one I get a monthly Excel drop from the training, the Center of Excellence folks, the folks that handle the LMS system, you know, the learning management system. All this stuff is tracked within the learning management system, except for this one over here, which is around the team health assessments. All the stuff in the top. The other ones are, you know, we track using a tool, right? And so this top part is from a learning management system, and then I just create pivot tables off of them from the data that's there. And there's other things I could show, like hours trained. I could do that too, but I don't necessarily show that. But there's other information that I can get from that to be able to create these type of images. So everything training comes from a learning management system. So when you create your training program, you'll want to make sure that you have it all there. It makes it nice and easy. Instead of tracking it manually, you use a system to be able to track it for you. So,
is there a learning management system that you recommend?
That's
a good question.
I don't know how to really answer that question.
I think HR, I mean, the company has
an
department and have one there. I forgot the name of it. But it is an HR tool that the HR department has, and they're tracking all the development trainings. And the good thing is, from the strategic perspective, we've included the Agile trainings as part of the development trainings. And that was a great executive buy-in that we had. The conversations with HR, and now folks are being, you know, praised and for their development, and Agile is included in their development.
Yeah. So
I have a learning management system built already, rather than starting from scratch to create these matrix. And
yeah.
Thanks.
So the learning management system, to me, I see it as just that's why I don't really have a preference. It's more of, can people find a class that they're looking for? Yes, awesome, I love it. Can they register? Yes, I love it. And when they attend class, can it update automatically, right? Or can you update it to be able to show that they completed it and capture the data for it? If it does all that, to me, that's enough. That's all I really kind of need. Now, there's more advanced things that you may be interested in, like online classes and things like that. But tools that I've used in the past are like SAP learning management system. I actually forget the name of it, but SAP had a really robust one that I've used in the past. The learning management system we're using now, I just can't remember. The name of it I can't remember the name of it. Well, like what product it is. But I've used SAP in the past.
All right. Thanks, Andren.
Yeah.
Right, so Andres, it is time. So just keep in mind that just if you have additional questions, this is not it. You can actually go ahead and put it in the chat or even put it in our discussion forum, and we will make sure that we address it. But there is this last thing that we do every time we leave this meeting. We ask you guys to please turn on your video cams. Bob, come on, I know it's tough there. Let's put on the video cams real quick, because I want to actually take a picture.
Anything you say, Rick.
I want to take a picture. So this picture, again, we copy it, put it in LinkedIn, and we share it with everyone, with the world, right? To again, get more people here to participate in this free event. But the way this picture works, again, please turn on your camera if you can, please. There you go, Joe, thank you. Ray, when you can. Joy. Okay. All right, Raquel, nice to see you. Good looking people here. Make sure you get your hair nice. Andres, how's that hair looking? Looking good. So again, Andres, this is what I need from you. This is the way we end this meeting. We have a gesture that we send out to the world, right? So give us the meaning of that gesture so we can look for a symbol. What would you like to say to the world? What would be a gesture that you want to?
What would be a gesture that I want to radiate to the world?
Yes.
I like what Bill. I like that one.
Bill,
right?